attack went down were ordered to land immediately.
All right, we want to get more information as to who senior officials may think will be found responsible for this horrible act of terrorism. We want to go now on the phone to Lawrence Korb. He was the Assistant Secretary of Defense under Ronald Reagan. He is currently at the Council on Foreign Relations. Mr. Korb, thanks for being with us.
Nice to be with you.
We understand that at least 3 Palestinian groups, Hamas, the Islamic Jihad, the Democratic Front for the Liberation of Palestine, they have all denied any responsibility for these terrorist acts. Some, actually a number of terrorist experts have said that they believe it is the work of Osama Bin Laden. What do you think?
Well, he certainly has said he was going to do something, and so that would be logical to expect him to do it. We don't have any proof yet, but I imagine, given the fact that people had to get on these planes and buy tickets and stuff, we'll be able to establish that pretty clearly within a short amount of time.
I want to explain something to our viewers as they see this on the screen. Yasser Arafat, who is the Palestinian leader, has come out also condemning the attack and saying that he personally and his organization is shocked and horrified. So let us not misunderstand the pictures that we see on the screen. These are some Palestinians in parts of Israel celebrating the attack. We should make it clear that this is separate from the official response of Palestinian leader Yasser Arafat. Mr. Korb, a question about what we do in terms of a military response. People have already begun talking about when we are likely to respond, how we are likely to respond. From your term as the Assistant Secretary of Defense, explain to us how something like this works in terms of a response at the Pentagon.
Well, you have to find out who did it and how you can get to them, but it's much easier said than done. We still haven't held anybody responsible for the blowing up of the USS Cole, the ship in Aden. We haven't punished those who blew up the Khobar Tower. That's the problem. It's not an individual nation. These are groups that cut across nations, and it's very, very hard to decide where to retaliate. They also hide themselves among civilians. This is not a large army. This is a comparatively small groups of people, and that's going to be the frustrating thing. We're going to want to do something, and it's going to be very hard to do it. When I was in government, we never were able to successfully retaliate for those who blew up the Marine barracks in Beirut in 1983. We never really did get those who did it.
Right. I want to ask you about something that we saw today. Fairly quickly after we saw these attacks, we saw the leaders of the Taliban government of Afghanistan rushing essentially out to cameras to condemn the attack. Even one of them said that he believed it was impossible for Osama Bin Laden to have any sort of involvement with it. If one were being skeptical, one might think that they were simply trying to save their own necks because the United States government would be looking directly at Afghanistan for harboring Bin Laden for so long. Well,
there's no doubt about that. The problem you're going to face is that it's going to be hard to establish a definite link between these people and Bin Laden. I mean, Bin Laden doesn't hold group meetings, in his basement once a week. I mean, these are people that are connected to him with several cutouts all over the world. And as we saw in the recent trial here in New York City for
black box, the infamous black box. But then what?
Well, there's a lot to diagnose from what you call the black box, which is actually bright orange. You're going to hear the exchange in the cockpit.
Right.
You're going to find out what was said. Unless they have very sophisticated techniques for disabling that, which I doubt very much. They're very much interested probably in actually leaving a message to say why they're doing this or whatever. But they may not. They may be consulting with each other in a foreign language, most likely, and saying what they need to say to get this aircraft directed to where they want to go.
Skills. That would be, would there be enough information in the cockpit itself to be able to, for them to set a kind of flight plan?
Well, certainly there is, the planes independently navigate, and you can, with any number of devices in the cockpit, navigate anywhere you want to go. You aren't dependent at all on air traffic control to go anywhere you want.
Clearly they weren't clearing this flight with
How
anybody.
long would it take to get from Boston to New York if you just were aiming for the for the World Trade Center?
Well, it's probably, what is it, 35-minute flight, actual flying time? Boston, New York? It's not long. And, but on a day like today, this was an unusually clear day. There was unlimited visibility. You could fly the coastline if you wanted to. It wouldn't have taken a genius to do it, but these guys couldn't have counted on good weather either, so.
Right. But isn't it entirely feasible as well that they could have done that, because there were no reports of erratic planes, planes in wrong positions, etc., preceding any of this? Suddenly that plane showed up, and that was it.
No, there are a lot of questions, the answers to which will be most intriguing when we get them. And I'm confident that we'll get most of the answers. I think that the investigating authorities are going to work as hard as they've ever worked, or maybe harder in their lives, to unravel this, get to the bottom of it, find out what can be found out. Certainly, these aircraft were followed on radar. There is a recorded track that will show their flight path. And the flight data recorders, if they're recovered intact, would also give a lot of information about the actual route of the plane over the last half-hour flight. So I think that there's an awful lot of information that can be gleaned by trained investigators right on the site here that will help immensely. Back to the human aspect now. Sitting next to me is my brother Jeff Scarborough, who was a cameraman here, who shot one of the definitive pieces of footage that we've seen. You were on the scene, Jeffrey, and yes. I want to roll the tape of the collapse. You were there with your camera rolling, and I want you to tell me what it was like to be looking through your viewfinder and seeing that building come down. So let's roll the tape now. Okay. Again, there it is. This is your tape.
Yes, they moved us back to this point. Okay, you're watching the collapse, and it's an unreal sight. I was just thinking of, this is probably worse than in Pearl Harbor, just watching the horrible loss of life. But then you can see the plume coming, and everybody's running there telling us all to get back. So I just kept the camera rolling here as I'm just trying to get at a safer distance. Because where the car was parked, everything was totally covered with soot at this point.
I can see the.
And you'll see when I settle down, I tucked around the building. I'm settling down to try to stay out of the way of the plume to try to get it some. Yeah, here we go. Now, what really made me move after this, you're going to hear what I believe was gunshots, but I have no proof of this because as soon as I heard it, I left. Listen closely. That sounded like gunshots to me. That's why you see that I'm getting out of there as quick as I can. So I don't know what transpired after that. I just tried to get to a safe distance.
An example of how you stand up to terrorism. You just don't be afraid. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. We need
5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Rudy Giuliani, the mayor of New York, there making another statement about the response of this city. Linda, I'd just like to say I've been in this chair now for about, well, it was just about exactly 7 hours ago that the first of these events started unfolding. What a calamitous day for America. And yet, you know that somewhere in the world, somebody is watching these pictures with great glee, watching the pictures of the hijacked airliner, the second one of the day, smashing into and ultimately demolishing the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center, the symbol of capitalism to many people around the world. They want us to be scared. They want us to be afraid. As we heard President Bush's senior advisor say not long ago that our fellow citizens and our freedom came under attack today. They want us to somehow lose some of that freedom, and let's just hope and pray that doesn't happen.
The United States most definitely will not allow it to happen. However, there will be a coordinated response, you can be sure. We are beginning to get more information about those who were lost today. The numbers in the end may be in the tens of thousands, but we know for sure the number of people who were lost on the 4 commercial airliners that went down today. They were 2 American Airlines planes, 2 United Airlines planes. In honor of those souls departed, let us remind you of who and how many were on those planes. American Airlines Flight 77, bound from Dulles, Virginia to Los Angeles, 77 passengers and 6 crew. American Airlines Flight 11, Boston to Los Angeles, 81 passengers and 11 crew. United Airlines from Newark, New Jersey to San Francisco, Flight 93, 38 passengers and 7 crew. Also, United Airlines Flight 175, bound from Boston to Los Angeles, 56 passengers and 9 crew. As we mentioned before, as we're beginning to learn more details about those who may have been on those planes, we here at Fox News have also learned that a friend and a colleague was lost on that airplane that crashed into the Pentagon. Her name is Barbara Olson, and you may have seen her many times on this network and others.